What's up, you guys? My name is Aubrey and this is my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about one of the biggest pieces of COVID-19 relief aid that we have seen so far during the pandemic. You see, so much of the aid that has been distributed over the last year has been focused towards businesses, entrepreneurs, and employers. But this piece of aid that I'm going to be talking about in this video is aid specifically targeted towards families, and it will be a huge help for working families in this country. So if you have kids, if you have a family, then this video is for you. So let's get started. Over the last year throughout the pandemic, there has been trillions of dollars being distributed through aid. Through a lot of government programs like eviction bans and food stamp programs, through business programs and business funding solutions like the PPP and the EIDL. But whenever it comes to physical cash payments to people and families, that's kind of where the government has fallen short and where people haven't had as many resources as some other countries in comparison. In the United States, the only real physical cash payments and aid that people received were stimulus checks. We received a $1,200 stimulus check last year. We received another $600 one at the end of 2020. And then just within the last month, we received another $1,400 one. And don't get me wrong, that certainly is better than nothing, but for a lot of families, that is simply just a drop in the bucket, and that there is still a long way to go until they are made whole from the pandemic. And that's where the child tax credit could potentially come into play. Now, the child tax credit is a tax credit that I've been talking about now for about a month since the $1.9 trillion stimulus package was passed. But up until recently, in the last few days, we didn't know 100% of the details and 100% how this program is going to work. But that information has recently been released, and now we have the information that we need. Now, what the child tax credit is, the child tax credit is a tax credit given to families that have children. If you have a child under the age of 5, then you could be eligible for $3,600 on behalf of that child. If you have a child who is 6 and above up until the age of 17, then you could be eligible for $3,000 per eligible child. You could also be potentially eligible for $500 for an 18-year-old dependent, or if you have a dependent who's between the ages of 19 and 24 years old, as long as they're a full-time college student. Now, in order to be eligible for this child tax credit, you have to have an adjusted gross income of $75,000 or less if you are a single filer. $112,500 if you are a head of household, and $150,000 or less if you are a joint couple filing together. If you make above these threshold numbers, then the child tax credit will end up phasing out $50 for every $1,000 that you make over those thresholds. Now, one really cool thing about this child tax credit is the fact that you will not have to wait until next year in 2022 when filing your 2021 taxes in order to claim this money. In fact, starting in July, these payments will start being distributed out to you in the form of monthly payments until December. Now, the way that this will work is that if you are eligible for the child tax credit, whatever amount you are eligible for will be split in half. Half of that you'll receive next year when you go to file your 2021 taxes. The other half will start being distributed to you in monthly payments starting in July. So you will start receiving payments starting in the month of July until the end of the year for the second half of your child tax credit amount. And you'll receive that in 6 different payments throughout the rest of 2021. This will provide working families with direct aid that they desperately need rather than having to wait until tax season next year. Now, let's go over a couple of examples so that I make sure that I'm explaining this as easily to understand as possible. So let's say, for example, that you have one child dependent who is, let's say, 3 years old. So they would fall under the 5 and below age group, which means that they would qualify for $3,600. In this case, you would receive $1,800 next April when you file your taxes, but you would receive the other $1,800 in the form of monthly payments. So that means that in this scenario, you should expect to receive about $300 per month every month between July and December of 2021. Let's give another example, this time saying that you have 3 children, 1 who is under the age of 5 and 2 who are 6 and above. In this scenario, you would receive $3,600 for the child that is under the age of 5, and you would receive $6,000 total for the other 2 children. For this scenario, you would qualify for $9,600 total in child tax credit aid. Half of that, being $4,800, would come next year when you file your taxes. The other half would come in monthly payments starting in July, which means that during these monthly payment periods, you should expect to receive about $800 per month for your child tax credit payment. Now, these two examples are just simply examples. They are certainly not the only examples that exist out there. But again, a good rule of thumb is if you make under $75,000, $112,500, or under $150,000, you could qualify for this child tax credit, and you could qualify for $3,600 for children ages 5 and below, or $3,000 ages 6 to 17. Now, in order to take advantage of these payments, there are a few key things that you need to know. Number one is to file your taxes, even if you haven't done so in the past. Even traditional non-filers will need to file their taxes for the 2020 tax year in order to claim this child tax credit. That is incredibly important. The second thing that you need to remember is if you are somebody who has had a child in 2021. Because of the fact that the child tax credit is based off of 2020 tax information, unfortunately, if you've had a child between January 1st and present day today, that child will not be eligible for those monthly payments from July until December, but they will still be eligible for the child tax credit. You'll just have to claim it next April when filing your 2021 taxes, and you will get the full amount at that point rather than half now and half later. The third thing to remember is that the IRS will automatically start handing out these payments starting in July based off of 2021 tax information. So again, it is incredibly important to file your taxes in a timely manner. Don't file them late, don't file for an extension, just get them in by the tax due date, because if you are somebody that has children, your taxes will help you in getting those monthly payments. And the last thing that you need to keep in mind is that these income thresholds are fairly important when determining your eligibility for the child tax credit. Now, I understand that a lot of people may have made less in 2020 than they normally would, and because of that, this type of government program may have been something that you wouldn't have traditionally qualified for, but because of the year that 2020 was, you may have qualified for this now in present day. Let's say, for example, you're somebody who normally makes $190,000 per year, but in 2020 you were laid off, and as a result, you only made $60,000. Well, in this scenario, you would qualify for the full child tax credit. But let's say, for example, that today in 2021, you were rehired by a different company making about the same salary. And because of that new salary upgrade, you technically don't qualify for the child tax credit. But because of the taxes that you just filed based off of 2020 income, according to the IRS, you do. Well, in this scenario, if you were to collect all of the child tax credit payments and the next year you filed your taxes and showed that you had a drastically increased income, you could potentially owe that money back and have to pay it back to the government and to the IRS. So in order to combat that and be a bit proactive with this, the IRS is creating a child tax credit portal that will allow for people to go in and update their income so that this doesn't really become an issue in the future. So if this type of scenario applies to you, if you're somebody who made less in 2020 and you make significantly more now, and that could impact your child tax credit eligibility, then I would encourage you to look out for that portal, because it will be important to update your information there once that portal is live. And as of now, the IRS has not updated what that portal will look like or when it will actually be announced and released, but stay tuned. As far as specific dates and specific timelines go, there isn't really a whole lot as far as we know the exact dates of when payments will go out. It is estimated that they will go out in sometime in July, but we don't know exactly when. And as far as that child tax credit portal that I mentioned a few moments ago, we don't know the exact date that will launch, but according to the IRS, it will be launched by July 1st. But with it being said, you guys, I wanted to make this video because I think that this child tax credit will be incredibly helpful to working families all over the country, and I think it is important to stay in the know on what is going on with this child tax credit so that you can take advantage of it once it goes live. But like always, if you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, then make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.